Hello and welcome to NIFA's Webinar Wednesdays, a weekly virtual series specifically designed for Nebraska communities and housing partners. And in today's case, two of our ag partners, Nebraska 4-H and Nebraska FFA. I am Dudley Beyer, the Agricultural Programs Manager for NIFA, and also with me from NIFA behind the scenes to help monitor the chat and any audience questions is Susan Poulos, our Administrator of Outreach and Community Development. Today, we will be discussing the topic of the NIFA-sponsored Governor's Agricultural Excellence Awards, and in general, what the 4-H and FFA organizations do. We would like webinar attendees to save any questions until the end of the presentations. You can use the question feature at the bottom to input your questions, and the NIFA staff will hold those until the end. If you do prefer to ask your questions out loud, simply raise your hand and we can unmute you. Our panelists today are Stuart Shepard, Executive Director of the Nebraska 4-H Foundation, Jill Lingard, Extension Specialist for the University of Nebraska, Stacey Agnew, Executive Director of the Nebraska FFA Foundation, and Sarah Heideman, Career Field Specialist for Nebraska FFA. I'll just start off by saying that NIFA has been sponsoring the Governor's Agricultural Excellence Awards for right at about 25 consecutive years now. And generally speaking, they are to award clubs and chapters for emphasizing youth development and educational experiences for the entire membership. The awards currently range from $1,000 to $2,500 for 19 FFA chapters each year and $500 for 25 4-H clubs. And we always like to stress that they don't come from any tax dollars. We have been also having banners made in the names of the clubs and chapters that they can proudly fly back at home, and a certificate of excellence signed by both the governor and the NIFA's executive director. But let's hear from the experts themselves about the awards and whatever else they would like to tell us about their organizations, because when it comes right down to it, I myself was raised as a suburban kid on the outskirts of Chicago before moving to Lincoln, and had no real exposure to 4-H or FFA. So I learned interesting pieces of information every time I come in contact with your organizations. So Jill Lingard, how about you start us off?
Thanks, I'd be happy to, Dudley. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's see here. Can I just get a quick thumbs up, Stacey? I can see you. Can you see the slides okay on the screen? Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, thank you very, very much for the opportunity to join your meeting today and share some comments following the Governor's Ag Excellence Awards. On behalf of my colleagues, extension educators, and assistants in 4-H across all 93 counties, I just want to say thank you very much for your continued support. More than 25 years, as we just heard, of supporting our clubs and our chapters across the state in developing projects that really better their communities. Go ahead and share just a screenshot here of the 2021 award winners. And you can see there the 4-H club award winners. We awarded 25 clubs this year, $500 grants for projects, again, that they designed to better their communities in ways that they determined. And in a moment, I'll highlight a couple of those for you. But I just wanted to give a little bit of an update on where we shared those awards in June. At the end of June, June 28th, we had a celebration at the R.B. Warren Arena on UNL's East Campus in combination with our Premier Animal Science Excellence and Life Challenge events that bring hundreds of kids across the state to campus to compete in Quiz Bowl and livestock judging and Life Challenge events, really to compete and to test the skills and the knowledge and the events that they're learning in and perfecting throughout the year. And we, at the end of the first evening of those, had a very lovely evening. The governor was able to join us to award these groups and to award the winners from the competitions. And I just would be remiss if I didn't share a conversation I had with one young man after going through the award ceremony and going upstairs to take pictures as one of the award winners, we were just talking with his club about what was the best part. And he said, I just cannot believe I have never been that close to the governor before. And so being able to connect them with leaders in our state and leaders on our campuses, it is just so meaningful too. And it was just such a moment for him that I felt like was so special. And yes, he was excited about the competing and the awards that he'd received, but really just an opportunity to be in the presence of and face to face with leaders who are supporting their pursuits of their programs and their excellence was just really incredible. And so just wanted to share that quick little anecdote story because I thought it was so impactful. A couple of programs that I would like to highlight, and again, these are just two of the 25 that you saw there on the screen. We have a joint county project. The club is called Unified Showing, and this is in Otoe and Lancaster counties. And they're doing a really cool project about empowering youth with special needs through learning about showing livestock. And they connect these young people with lambs that they can show, and they give them an opportunity to come and work with their animals, to learn how to care for their animals, and to then compete in a class at the fair. And so again, it's just an opportunity to reach this underserved community who might not have this experience, teach them about the ag industry, give them this meaningful experience. And certainly for the members in the club that are helping to support this program, they're learning a lot too about working with other young people, about their leadership skills. And so we just wanted to highlight that particular project. The other club that we're going to highlight today is the Dakota County 4-H Council, and their programming is all around agricultural literacy in combination with a summer reading program. So they have several events planned for the calendar year. They've got some showing and fitting clinics and maybe more traditional agricultural literacy events planned for their membership. But they also have a program in partnership with the libraries in their communities to demonstrate ag literacy through a summer reading program where they go and they read with young people who may not have the opportunity to, live on a farm or be exposed to agriculture. And they do activities that are connected to books that they're reading. I know they do one around pizza and ag, and they do lessons about, the agricultural products that are part of the pizza. And so, again, just wanted to give you a chance to see a couple of the projects up close, and certainly we could provide detail on any of the other community projects at your request if you're interested in learning more about the really cool projects that the young people are achieving in their communities with the funding that you've provided. So again, thank you very much for continuing to support those. I'm going to turn my attention now just to telling you a little bit about the 4-H program model here in Nebraska. And some of you may have seen this before, but if you haven't, and this is new to you, this is the programming model that Nebraska 4-H operates under. You can see right at the center and right at the core of what we do is about positive youth development. That's really the discipline, prior to thinking about any of the content, whether it's our agricultural projects or our family consumer science related projects or our STEM related projects. Positive youth development, or PYD, as we sometimes refer to it, is really the core of everything we do. It's the lens through which we're trying to develop lifetime outcomes and impacts for young people. When you move past that core, you see a couple of arrows that center around that. One is around science literacy. This is a lens through which we help young people make decisions. It's a lens through which we make decisions, really focusing on inquiry-based learning and helping young people to develop their critical thinking, their analytical skills for decision-making, not only in their projects, but a skill that will transcend them into their adulthood. The other ring that you see there, the other arrow that you see there around that center ring reads quality learning engagement, if you can't see those small words on the screen. And that really is just the way in which we engage the learner with our new content, whether that is through an app or through a project manual or through a synchronous online learning experience. There are lots of ways in which we have perfected quality learning engagement and reach and deliver our programming to young people. As you get around the next layer of the circle, this is what we refer to as maybe our 3 buckets or our 3 areas by which we will deliver information, or for which we deliver information rather. You can see there that one is around engaging youth in STEM and agriculture. That's the one that's connected to the gold areas. One is around empowering youth leadership and entrepreneurship. And then the one with the pink or purple shaded areas is around preparing youth to make decisions now and in the future. And so when we think about, well, what is it that we do in 4-H, again, not specific to the content or to the programming, but sort of the why behind the work we do, it's really those three things that help keep our work grounded and focused. So again, about engaging youth in STEM and ag, helping prepare leaders and entrepreneurs for the future, and helping young people make decisions that keep them healthy and prepared for wherever they're going. You can see connected then to each one of those are some content areas or some focus areas. You can see again in the gold area, STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math, and programming that we would deliver around that topic. Content that's really deeply important in Nebraska is this idea around food supply and confidence. And it's really about helping young people understand where their food comes from, building consumer confidence in the marketplace. And then as you go back to this teal or the lower section, you can see we have specific programming areas around entrepreneurship, around leadership development, and around community development. And then again, as we move back up into the last set of areas, career and college readiness and healthy living, whether it is healthy living in terms of nutrition and exercise, or healthy living in terms of their social and emotional learning, really just helping young people be prepared to make decisions that help them establish a healthy lifestyle that it will again support their success into their future. And then the very last ring that you see around the outer ring is really our delivery methods. And these may feel familiar to you if you know 4-H. There are camping programs that you see there at the top. There are special interest programs, things like robotics or a horse club, where I really start to get focused on the topic or the area that I'm interested in learning more about. Clubs, traditional community-based clubs, school enrichment, where we're helping support what's happening during the school day in partnership with teachers in K-12 classrooms. And then after school programs, which is certainly a large growing area where we're serving more and more young people as after school programs are becoming a traditional parts of lots of schools and lots of communities, a way to provide wraparound support for the school day and additional care for young people in those after school, out of school hours. So again, we just wanted to take this opportunity today to talk to you a little bit about our 4-H model, our 4-H framework here in Nebraska, and give you some insight into the way that we approach our programming and the way that we organize our efforts. Certainly all of the project areas that you might know or hear about young people in your communities participating in fit in this model in one or more ways. But as we think about this in terms of our organizational framework, this is really the research base behind what we do, the why behind what we do when we're helping young people explore their sparks and their interests and their passions in the individual project areas. So I would just say, again, thank you very, very much for your support of the awards. Thank you for the opportunity to share a bit about what 4-H does. And then I would entertain any questions that you might have about our organization or about the programs that we shared at the beginning of the discussion.
Thank you, Jill. And I think we're holding any questions till the end. So now I would like to go to Sarah Heideman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Sarah Heideman. I'm the State FFA Advisor. I work for the Department of Education and am a career field specialist for agriculture, food, and natural resources. And we're excited to be here today, and thanks for the opportunity to be able to talk and share a little bit about what Nebraska FFA is, what we're doing currently, and how NIFA has supported us through the Governor's Award of Excellence. Just a little bit of some high-level facts and statistics about what FFA is here in Nebraska. We have 202 programs in Nebraska. That is over 10,000 members here in Nebraska alone, and over 750,000 members across the state or across the nation. So we are one of the largest youth organizations for 7th through 12th members. We primarily work in 3 different areas. So what's happening in our classrooms are supported by ag education teachers, 7th through 12th grade. Then we have the leadership component of FFA, and then we have our work-based learning component, which is called supervised ag experiences. And that's where students are taking hands-on experience and learning, growing through whether that be a job, an entrepreneurial-based project, or some sort of placement opportunity where they're taking what they've learned in the classroom, what leadership skills they've learned through FFA, and putting it into applying that into their own project. Today, I wanted just to specifically talk about the Governor's Award of Excellence and what that looks like for chapters here in Nebraska. We do open that up to all of our chapters to be able to apply. Like Dudley mentioned earlier, it is awarded to 19 FFA chapters. This last year we had 32 chapters that had applied. And then we had 4 people that went through, reviewed the applications, and completed a rubric to determine who would be the award recipients. We asked that chapters focus on 5 kind of topical categories, whether that be the future of agriculture, where students would take the Governor's Award of Excellence dollars and help support literacy through awareness and promote safe food supply, exploration and promotion of ag career opportunities, SAE development with a focus on entrepreneurship and agri-science areas, international ag brought to our community, or developing leaders to solve a problem within the ag industry. So the intent of the dollars is to really make sure that chapters are focusing in one of those 5 areas and exploring that as a chapter. We asked that the award money could be used on a couple of different things like equipment, computer software, digital skills, micro labs, etc. Training, where students will learn how to use the equipment and participate in career exploration. Resource management with supplies, instructional materials, research labs, etc. Topical categories like promoting literacy, awareness, or doing something that's an exploration of agriculture. And lastly, efforts to solve problems that address needs of our communities. So those were the topical areas that chapters can work and apply for. I'd like to share just a couple instances of what chapters across Nebraska have done and used the NIFA funds for. Normally, we would recognize these chapters in person. Last year, unfortunately, we had a virtual state convention where we were able to share pictures, and the NIFA banners were mailed out to chapters, but we're hopeful for next year to be able to be in person. Typically, these would be awarded during one of our sessions at Pinnacle Bank Arena. These are very big sessions, and this is such an important recognition for schools and chapters. Like Jill had mentioned earlier, the governor helps present those awards, and that is such a special event for these chapters to be able to be recognized by the governor, by NIFA, and receive banners and dollars for their efforts. This year, we put together this video, which we'll share the link at the end if you'd like to watch the entire video, that walks through what different schools had used the dollars for. So you can see we've collected photos and a short little bio what these schools have used it for. So these were all 19 chapters that were recognized. So you can read about Amherst, what they have done. They worked through greenhouse projects. Reading Davenport also worked in the greenhouse. Central had a garden space. Elba had an ag experience for their 1st grade students. Ag communication materials were purchased with the Exeter Milligan Friend FFA chapter. So I will share this link at the end, and you can watch the entire video. We'll roll through this in a video format, and you can see the students on what they've purchased with the funds. My screen is frozen here for a minute. There we go. So I wanted to say thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit about what Nebraska FFA is doing with these funds and how important it is that chapters are continue to explore and learn more about the ag industry through generous donations and being able to take funds and explore ag science and the world of agriculture. Without these funds, wouldn't be able to do that. So I wanted to say thank you. I'm also going to turn it over to Stacey Agnew now. I know she probably has a couple of things she'd like to say as well.
Thanks, Sarah. And yeah, again, just the support that NIFA has given over the last 25 years is pretty significant. Here, the foundation, we're the fundraising arm for Nebraska FFA Association and agricultural education here in Nebraska. So our job is to make sure there is financial support available for the work that Sarah does to support statewide leadership programming, teacher professional development. And we have partnered with NIFA over the last many, many years in ways where we've engaged NIFA beyond the grants, and with at our state FFA convention, which, as Sarah mentioned, is typically held in person here in Lincoln. There's nearly 7,000 FFA members that attend, and we do an FFA career fair and expo. So FFA members who are, as Sarah mentioned, 7th grade through high school is the age that of our members that typically will attend convention. And they learn about the different programs that Dudley helps to manage with NIFA. And we really do believe that that's important, specifically around, especially entrepreneurship, what loans are available for FFA members to establish their SAE, as Sarah mentioned, in our 3-circle model. We want to make sure that those beginning, I think it's the beginning farmer loan program that NIFA helps to assist throughout our communities, and that those funds are available for FFA members if they want to start developing around the farming and ranching sector of agriculture. Also, we've engaged with NIFA. There are 7 state FFA officers, which are typically newly graduated high school students and college students, college freshmen, who serve to represent the FFA Association across the state. And so Sarah works with them on a day-to-day basis. We're fortunate on the foundation side to also get to work with them, to engage them with our industry partners such as NIFA. So our students get to sit down and meet with Dudley and the leadership at NIFA and learn about opportunities and challenges that that they're facing specifically in the ag industry as well as rural communities. So really unique opportunity for 7 students to be able to get to do that, and really, really grateful for that. That is, I'll just reiterate the value of these grants here in Nebraska. One thing that is unique about agriculture education and career and tech education in Nebraska is they are in high schools. They're not a club like our friends at 4-H. They're an integral part of agricultural education classrooms. And so in Nebraska, most agricultural education programs do not receive state funding. Everything that happens at that local level for the classroom setting is funded through local property tax dollars primarily. And so these NIFA awards, with the value of them being at $1,000 or $2,500, can be really significant in helping to augment, as Sarah mentioned, different equipment, different tools to help to support the curriculum or the activities that the FFA chapter chooses to do to support the community. And so I just want to reiterate that's pretty important in Nebraska. We're unique because we're only one of 2 states in the US where ag education at the local level is funded at the local level. So I remember Dudley saying there were no tax dollars used in this message, and I would reiterate that there are no tax dollars typically used at the state level. And so really, really important the continued support from NIFA to support those local ag ed programs. So with that, I'll pitch it back to Dudley.
Thank you, Stacey and Sarah. We have a brand new executive director for you to meet the next time we get together. Stuart, do you have anything you want to add about?
No, Dudley, we just want to say thanks for the support from NIFA. We could not do this without you all. and look forward to partnering with you each year, and appreciate all you're doing for building leaders in the state of Nebraska.
Thank you, Stuart. Susan, do we have any audience questions?
We do not have any audience questions, but I do have a couple of questions if the panel wouldn't mind indulging me. I'm wondering what the application process is like for these clubs and chapters to apply for the Governor's Agricultural Excellence Awards.
Susan, you cut out at the end for me, but did you ask about the application process?
Yes, I
Okay.
did.
Okay, great. So we open ours up to all FFA chapters. So it'd be open very soon. It'll be open, I think, August 15th, and then we'll close it at the end of September. I know last year we tried to change deadlines a little bit and gave an extension. So we'll open that up, and the application is around completing project plans. So the name of the project, the purpose, and then the chapter will write 3 goals around the project. So what's the plan of action for the outcome of your project? What's the timeline? So they'll identify those. They'll also identify who will be involved. So the people involved, budget, and promotion of the project. So who will be part of the project, including all partners in community and business. What's the estimated expenses? What is the income, if there is any? What's the plan to promote the project to the school and community? And how does it support what's locally happening in your chapter, community, and school? So how is this supplementing what's already happening in your ag education program? So that application process, we'll collect those, and then we get rubrics and feedback forms. We'll have a panel of 4 individuals. I know Dudley has evaluated those applications, and then we have 3 other community members, those involved with 4-H or those involved with FFA, or those involved in ag literacy, ag education in some way. So we'll kind of rotate through who those review individuals will be. We let chapters know if they're a recipient or not, and then they have until March 1st to complete their project, meaning the equipment, whatever it is that they have put into purchase or enact, they have until March 1st. And then they would have the presentation that we would show at our state convention with the quick bio on what they've done. They report the outcomes and results, and then share some photos.
Dudley, on the 4-H side, the Governor's Agricultural Excellence Awards are handled by the Foundation Board, and we give 25 of those awards out at $500 each. The criteria is sent out early in January, and then that selection takes place in the spring, and then the recognition event takes place in June, as it did just a couple of weeks ago. The PACE Life Challenge Awards are face-to-face this year, and we're on East Campus. So young people from all across the state came to campus for 2 days of education and competition events. And then both of those programs participated in the same recognition program on campus.
And for those that might not be familiar, PACE isn't that Premier Animal Science Experiment or Experience?
Yeah, Jill, can you maybe highlight some of the things that happen at the PACE event?
Absolutely. So PACE Life Challenge, as the full event is called, is a series of competitive events on the PACE, the Premier Animal Science Events side. It's our state livestock judging contest, state quiz bowl, skillathon. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything. Meats judging, poultry judging. And then on the Life Challenge side, there are a series of competitions and challenges that are connected to some of our family consumer science related project areas. So design, fashion, food and nutrition. And so competitive events that students who are interested in those type of project areas can come and compete in. The other real value, I think, to that event and those events being hosted on campus is we engage our campus faculty and partners in the departments in animal science, in clothing and textiles, et cetera, who really provide some expertise and an opportunity for the young people not only to learn from them, but also to have an opportunity to see campus and connect with potential faculty that they might have
Yeah.
in the future. And so just really can't underscore enough the value of all of these pieces coming together, the campus partners, our organization, and our young people, and then the Governor's Ag Excellence Awards in combination with that is just a really nice event in a couple of days that we bring a lot of young people together on campus to celebrate them and to learn and grow together.
Thank you.
We do have a couple of questions from the audience members. One is, are any of the organizations tracking the students after they leave high school to find out if any of them go on to ag careers or if they just kind of choose other industries after their experiences?
We don't, yes and no, we don't necessarily track what students are doing after high school. We do have out of school membership, however. So each year, 150 to 250 American degree recipients are from Nebraska. Typically, those individuals are entered into some sort of post-secondary agricultural field, knowing that they are continuing their work-based learning, supervised ag experience into college and outside of high school. We don't necessarily track outside of membership because our membership expires the third national convention after they've graduated from high school. So we don't, I guess, necessarily have data to report that, but what we do know is we have a huge database, as I know 4-H does as well, of alumni and members that have been involved and have continued to either support, be involved in agriculture in some way. And I know maybe Stacey can mention a little bit about just the database and alumni that we have in Nebraska.
Yeah, I would reiterate what Sarah said is that, yeah, we don't necessarily track that, but what I would speak to is a lot of students that have 4-H or FFA experiences, especially in rural communities, I would say they're just more aware of opportunities that are related to jobs in ag. Probably the gap that exists in that we see is primarily in urban programs like Omaha and Lincoln, just because from the FFA side, I wouldn't necessarily say 4-H, but on ag education and FFA side, there aren't as many students that we only have one program in one high school in Omaha, and I would say a much smaller program in Lincoln. So the awareness of tracking those students specifically through, I think, might be a little more difficult. But I would use a benchmark of students that come to the College of Ag Science and Natural Resources at UNL. A large percentage of them are FFA and 4-H former members. And I would also probably say that when you look at the community colleges across our state where there are ag programs, most likely those students had strong FFA or 4-H programs. So that's just that's more anecdotal, but I think the three of my colleagues would probably agree with that.
A couple of questions myself. Would I be off base to think that the largest 4-H clubs and FFA chapters are in the Midwest?
That's a Sarah question. I don't know.
In terms of the individual club size or how many students are involved, I guess?
Actually, both. I would just think the numbers would be greater in the Midwest than on the coast, but am I completely wrong in thinking that?
California, Texas, and Missouri are the largest, and Ohio are the largest in sheer numbers, but the population is also a lot higher in those states. So they have much higher membership just based on the amount of people that live in those schools or live in those states. So their schools are much larger than in the Midwest. It's also a little bit unusual in Nebraska. Students can choose to be an FFA or not. So in those other states that I just mentioned, they're an affiliated state. So if you're in ag education, you are in FFA.
I see.
Nebraska, it's a little bit different. Typically, everybody that takes an ag education course is an FFA, but we don't require that. So students can choose to be an FFA or not. So it's a little bit different in comparing apples and oranges, but Our typical size is also very unusual because if you're talking about a smaller school, I used to teach at Lawrence Nelson. We had 44 students in the high school. So having, an FFA chapter with 30 people was really big because that was almost our entire school was an FFA. But when you look at Omaha Bryan and look at their chapter size and the size of school, that is a little bit different. So it's kind of hard to compare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just agree with Sarah that like we don't focus as much on the comparison of total numbers because we certainly know there are states that are more populated than we are here. What we try to focus on in our Nebraska 4-H growth goals are our reach, per community. And so we have about 140,000 young people who are enrolled in 4-H across Nebraska. And what we're looking for is how are we reaching and in each individual county and community, they have what we call a growth goal. Everybody is at this 1 in 3 age eligible young people are engaged in 4-H. We're trying to grow that to closer to 1 in 2. We certainly have counties and communities that are already at the 1 in 2 mark. We have counties and communities that are beyond that, where 80 and 90% of the age eligible kids are enrolled in 4-H. So as we talk about the growth goals, we don't look so much at just simple numbers of population, but how are we doing in achieving percentages of kids in those counties and communities in our organization. And right now we report 1 in 3 and 140,000 young people.
Yeah. So as we participate in the region, I think the answer to your question is yes. The Midwest part of the United States for 4-H is where large participation numbers. Across the nation, it's about 7 million young people registered in 4-H with an alumni base of about 21 million. So it's the largest youth development organization in the country.
Another question I had is, I have to think there might be 4-H and FFA equivalent type programs in other countries. I don't know if I'm off base on that. And if there is there any ever kind of exchange student type of ideas going on?
I can answer that because I participated in the global 4-H network. So there's 84 countries around the world where 4-H is taking place. The model that's here in the United States, where the delivery method is through the land-grant university systems, that is the only model like that in the world. So most of those are funded by government agencies or by private organizations. But as the internet became more prevalent around the world, it was easy for people to see what kids were doing in 4-H, and they have, most of them are using the curriculum that Nebraska has created or some other state. But every 3 years, 4-H does meet internationally, and people from all around the world. I attended the conference several years ago in Seoul, Korea, and there were about 50 nations there, or 50 countries there. Korea and Japan have huge 4-H programs. Africa has huge 4-H programs. So they're highly organized, they're well funded. One of the things that as our country is in conflict or goes into other nations to help stabilize countries after a war, one of the requirements through the State Department is that they establish 4-H in their school systems. So that's why you see 4-H in Japan and Korea and some of those nations. They've had them for many, many, many years, and they're highly successful programs. There are youth exchange programs between countries. We don't participate here in Nebraska because we're already really busy with kids.
Do those global gatherings rotate around to different countries, I assume?
It does. So the first one was in Korea, and then I think last year it was in Canada. And then it goes this year to Africa, to Tanzania.
Great.
Dudley, I do have a couple questions from the audience.
Okay.
In addition to the general awareness of what's out there job-wise, what sort of leg up do young farmers and ranchers who have this background in the industry receive? And is there any sort of support network that they're likely to be part of after they accelerate or graduate out of these programs.
Sarah, if you're okay, I might take this one.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. I would just say, as students become alumni, so as Sarah mentioned, they become alumni of FFA, the third national convention after their high school graduation. We have a belief in developing the leadership of those students that are the 3% of the population, the farmers and ranchers that went through ag education and FFA. And we would anticipate that they developed leadership skills to learn to be an advocate for agriculture, and they're involved as leaders on their local school boards, on their local NRDs, on their, maybe there's county 4-H, 4-H fair groups, those types of things. So you have farm bureaus and various different the corn boards, those types of organizations where they get to choose to be as leaders. I would say, as far as support and education, there's so many, whether it's the local I would say government agencies, obviously, that provide assistance. There's the university provides lots of educational opportunities at our level. As far as what Sarah and I work on the statewide level, we are primarily focused on high school students. And so continuing education be after they graduate from FFA is not typical. I would say on the national level, there are specific programs they have for students who intend to be farmers and ranchers, right, Sarah? National FFA has something. I can't remember what that's called. Isn't there it's in Kansas City. Is it the next generation? There is some
intentional programming that they do about getting them involved. Again, like Stacey mentioned, we aren't really part of that. We really do focus on middle school and high school. One thing that we do a lot of career exploration, and I know that was mentioned, that's part of our curriculum. It's part of the career readiness standards. It's part of what ag educators are doing. We also have that part of our conferences and leadership materials that we provide at the state level. In the fall, we do what's called Pathways to Careers Conference, where we take the 7 pathways within agriculture, animals, plants, power, structural, technical, environmental, natural resources, et cetera, and explore those with students, where we really intentionally connect them with business and industry folks and individuals. And I know Stacey and her staff have a huge part of that as well, in getting connected between youth and who are people doing the work right now and making those connections. So we do intentionally do that and provide opportunities for who is currently working in the ag industry and talking with and connecting with middle school and high school students.
Dudley, I would add, FFA has an amazing following of alumni, and they've done a super job of developing their alumni to be able to go out and advocate for them. It's a model that all of us could learn from. It's really impressive.
Susan, any more audience questions?
I do. I have 2 more. Beyond the ag education piece, which we know is a big focus for both organizations, what is the biggest benefit to students who participate in the program? And knowing that not all of the students go into ag-based careers, what does this program really ultimately add to the students' education and future experiences?
Can start, and then Sarah and Stacey, if you want to add on. I think that certainly there is a strong ag-based set of projects that draw a lot of kids to our program. It's not the only area in which we serve young people, but it's an important one. But beyond their projects, sometimes we talk about it being almost project agnostic. Like, while we're concerned and interested about their sparks and their passions, we're really focused on those developmental outcomes for young people that are really things about critical thinking and decision making and leadership and engagement in their communities, things that transcend whatever topic or passion area or interest that they might be following. And so as we think about, again, the model that I showed you with youth development at the center of what we do, that's really our focus in is those long-term developmental outcomes, those impacts for young people that are about their trajectory for success in their future, regardless of what career path they follow.
Yeah,
No.
Jill, you said that beautifully. Right now, we really are teaching those skills under the context of agriculture in FFA. If those students are, wanting to be a nurse or a healthcare practitioner or something outside of agriculture, that's amazing. I mean, we obviously need that as well. I think the thing that both 4-H and FFA provide is just a sense of camaraderie, belonging, friendship. I mean, there's that social emotional connection and support that both of these organizations support for its members. Also, the long-term, Jill said it perfectly, trajectory of life skills outside of just what they're doing in their projects. So we really focus on record keeping, retention of members, how to have meeting skills, give speeches, no parliamentary procedure. And yes, that is currently happening in the context of agriculture, but those skills don't really go away or change. So if you're wanting to apply for a job and do a resume, that's part of what we prepare students for, is a general career readiness. And depending on wherever they go with that, they can take that with them. And I know Stacey is fortunate to talk to a lot of alumni and a lot of people that were involved. And I feel like we frequently hear stories of like, oh, I remember traveling to national convention or traveling to a state convention and the people that I met from across the state. So it does just have this emotional connection of making friends and just being part of something that's larger than the student, which is so special.
Yeah, I would just tack onto that and say the other thing we hear from our alumni is this ability to network and to be confident in navigating new environments. When we do some of our follow-up with our alumni, they talk about, being prepared to come onto a campus or go into a workplace and be able to represent themselves and to communicate effectively and just to network. That simple, like, I know how to introduce myself to someone. I know how to ask for help when I need it. And I think both organizations do a beautiful job preparing young people for that kind of self-representation and that ability to connect and communicate effectively in a way that you may not see from their peers in other organizations.
I would just tag on, awesome. Oh, both just great from both from Jill and Sarah with what they said specifically. I would say from what we kind of hear and see as they get a little bit older is they acknowledge that they are ag advocates, and because of the experiential learning experiences they had through FFA and 4-H. And I'd like to share that both organizations are probably over 90 years old, close to 90 years old, both 4-H and FFA. We've been around a long time. And the importance of through ag is whether a student goes into an ag career or not. As Sarah mentioned, those very basic career prep skills, job interviews, networking, as Jill mentioned. I think part of it too that I would like to see is students that understand where their food comes from, whether or not they're involved in the agriculture industry. And so teaching them how to be advocates for how food gets to their table from the farmer and rancher, I think is important, no matter if you're going to be a nurse or a teacher in an elementary school. Just that basic understanding, I think, is somewhat lost in our society, to be honest with you, without 4-H and FFA. I really think that we're the gold standard as far as teaching. We, meaning that both organizations, are the gold standard with helping all students, no matter where they come from, be more aware of where their food comes from.
Absolutely.
We have two last questions. What are you doing specifically to make ag careers attractive to today's youth? I know, Sarah, you mentioned the pathway to careers, but is there anything specific either of the organizations are doing to really focus on or make the ag careers attractive?
I can start and just say we have something that we do called Connecting the Dots, which isn't only specific to ag careers, but certainly includes and focuses on them in part to connect young people with others in their communities who are in those careers. Somewhat similar to what Sarah mentioned with Pathways, it's an opportunity for them to engage and network and almost go through some sort of a simulation event of, if I want to pursue this career, this is the education that I need. This is the type of community I might find myself living in. And, oh, I want to live in this type of community, but there's only 2 jobs of the kind of job I want in that community. So will I be able to successfully, find a job and where? And so it's really giving them that practical opportunity to explore. And certainly we highlight ag careers in the mix of all of the things that we talk about at those kind of events. The other thing I would just say is, though it's not going to be the right career path for all young people, we give young people as many opportunities as we can to connect with our faculty and to connect with leaders in those industries, because we find that relationship and that network, again, that they build with potential faculty and departments that they might be pursuing education for those career paths in, is meaningful for them and meaningful in helping them make the decision for the campus that's right for them, for the career path that's right for them.
Any more questions, Susan?
The last question we have is, what more can we do as community members and organizations outside of the ag industry do to support 4-H FFA and the acceleration or the acceptance of ag careers?
People ask us this, and talk to your local teacher. I mean, the way that students get exposure and learn more is not from like one single ag teacher. I mean, we all know the breadth and depth of ag education is massive and extensive, and it is a huge load on teachers to be able to expose students to everything. So if you have an interest in finance, accounting, greenhouse, floriculture, horticulture, landscape design, power structural technical, no matter what it is, talk to your local teacher. There is some event, contest, supervised ag experience. There is something that is related to that. And ag teachers love to have guest speakers, have people talk to students, give practice interviews, be part of the chapter officer selection committee. There is so many opportunities, and I know local teachers need help and they want people to provide opportunities to their students. So that's a good starting spot, is to reach out to your local ag teacher. And if you're thinking, who is that? Where do I find that? What is that information? You can go to our website, neaged.org. And that information, we list where our programs are and what our teacher contact is as well. So that is my advice. I don't know, Stacey, you have other advice on how to get connected?
Yeah, I would say so. Before I would encourage this group that's listening is know that we would love to see more agricultural education and FFA programs, especially in our urban communities. We do a great job hitting our rural communities. There's, like I said, Lincoln has one, and then Omaha has one as well. And I would say those of you that are in those communities, advocate for those school districts, private and public, to be thoughtful in preparing students for careers in agriculture through ag education in the high school setting. Those I think are needs where I student taught at the Chicago High School for Ag Science, and I would love to see something like that in Lincoln or Omaha. So that's my 2 cents, but I would agree with everything Sarah said. Once we get those programs established, supporting that teacher, somebody described it to me as an ag teacher is like a head football coach with 175 plays, and they're the only coach. Now, how many high school teams do you see out there that have one coach? Nope. So just to give you the depth and the breadth of what our teachers do, most of our ag teachers teach anywhere from 6 to 7 different preps, which means they're teaching 6 to 7 different classes. They're not like a math teacher or an English teacher that maybe teach 2 different preps. So their workload is pretty heavy. They're rock stars in our world.
And I would just add in regards to connecting with 4-H, we have a team that focuses on career and college readiness. That might be a good pathway that we could connect potential partners with that team. We also have a team underneath our STEM portion of the model that I showed that's doing a series of virtual field trips in STEM fields, and certainly many of your fields connect to the STEM areas easily. And so that might be an avenue too, if you're interested in being highlighted or showcased in a virtual field trip to allow students to sort of see inside your organization in a virtual way. That's an avenue that we were always looking for partners for as well.
Any more
That's all the
questions?
questions I have, Dudley.
Okay. I'd like to thank all the virtual audience members for attending, and a special thank you to all our presenters today. I am told as well that the Selden Company was a sponsor of today's webinar, and I'd like to thank them as well. Please remember that this webinar, along with all previous webinars, are recorded and available on our website, NIFA.org, under Community Development Trainings and Webinars, or on our YouTube channel at NIFA Housing. So thank you again. Have a great week and have a great summer.